Welcome back, Off-Worlders and Fremen. I'm Captain James C. Duck, and as promised, today we're going to be reviewing the 1992 CD-ROM video game Dune. But I have a bonus for you. I'm also going to review the newest, as in is available to be played, Dune video game Dune Spice Wars, now on Steam in early access. Dune 1992. It was developed by Cryo Interactive and is a strategy action game released in CD-ROM format. Unfortunately, I didn't get to play this game when it first came out. My family didn't get our first PC until probably 1995 or 96, and it was a 286. It couldn't run a CD-ROM. However, I was able to find a way to play it now. The game is a loose adaptation of the book and 1984 movie, and is a mixture of adventure, strategy, and role-playing elements. It has two basic stages, each of which has different objectives. The first stage involves exploration and survival on the planet, as the player must learn to navigate the harsh desert terrain. The player must also gather spice in order to have a currency to use later on and satisfy the Padishah Emperor's orders for spice shipments. The final stage of the game involves a series of battles, as the player must lead their forces against the Harkonnens and their allies in a bid to secure control of the planet and its spice. The player must use a combination of tactics and strategy to defeat their enemies while also managing their resources. Throughout the game, the player must manage Paul's mental powers, which mostly manifest as the ability to contact people over distances. The player can issue commands to their units, including moving, attacking, or spice harvesting. The units will then execute these commands in real time, with each unit taking a certain amount of time to complete their actions. The game features a morale system. If a unit's morale falls due to negligence or lack of equipment, it will do its assigned task very inefficiently. That means it will be less effective in combat or gather less spice while farming. Overall, the combat system in the 1992 Dune video game is a challenging and engaging mix of real-time strategy and turn-based elements, requiring the player to use strategic thinking and careful planning to succeed in battle. One small problem that I had while playing the game now was the fact that there were no checkpoints. You had to go to the Atreides palace, move through the palace to a special room with a special mirror, and use that mirror to save your progress. But I suppose I'm a little spoiled by the checkpoint and autosave systems normally used today. Now we must do something. In order to review the mechanics, you have to step back with me to a time long ago. The Soviet Union had just begun to recover from its collapse a year ago. Laptops are not exactly made to sit on your lap, and Windows 3.1 just came out to become the premier graphic user interface, thus setting the standard. Bill Clinton will be elected President of the United States at the end of the year, and a movie about two public access TV hosts broadcasting from their basement is entertaining people of all ages. With this in mind, let's talk about the mechanics of the game. Graphics. Understand that we're working on a cathode ray tube monitor, otherwise known as a CRT monitor here. You might remember them, the big monitor that was always bigger front to back than the actual screen, and the graphics are limited to 16-bit. So for 1992, the graphics were pretty amazing. I'm actually really impressed with the graphics playing it today. Now there are two versions, one that was on PC and then one that was on Sega CD. The Sega CD version actually had better graphics, voiceover, and a few clips from the 1984 movie. Including that on a console was, well, at the time, revolutionary. Now, compared to the graphics of today, I mean, play Super Mario Bros. And then play the latest Mario Party. They don't compare graphics-wise. Gameplay systems. Again, we're talking about a game from 1992, all of which is contained on one CD-ROM, only able to hold at a max 1.3 gigs of data. However, if you consider the complexity of having to track where the troops are, where you are, where the Harkonnens are, and everything else the game has to track, then you tack on the random worm attacks on your harvesters, the job your Fremen are doing, as well as the equipment, plus a real-time day-night cycle, and some pretty excellent animation for the day, well, I must say that the development team did a great job. Story. In terms of story, it's an original story that I guess draws inspiration from the movie and book. You have the Harkonnens, the Atreides, the Fremen, you have sandworms and spice and thopters. The story doesn't follow either the book or the movie, but that's what inspired by means. So I would say it's an engaging story that makes you want to move along the storyline. Okay, the DeLorean can now bring us back to the present day because we're going to talk about Dune Spice Wars. Dune Spice Wars has had an early access release of April 2022, with full release scheduled for sometime in 2023. It is published by Funcom, the same people publishing Dune Awakening, and I've actually played this one. Dune Spice Wars is a real-time strategy game with the normal basic mechanics of any RTS. Start at base, collect resources, build buildings, build military, research technology, make army bigger, take territories, and repeat the process until you're able to attack the main stronghold of the faction you wish to eliminate. There are 5 factions you can choose from to play, each having their own specific strengths and buffs in-game. The Atreides, the Harkonnens, the Fremen, the Smugglers, and House Corrino. Each house also has special units and buildings available to it and abilities. As you conquer territory, you have to be careful and watch your villagers closely. Villagers may sometimes revolt. This results in you losing access to any resources, buffs, or services coming from that territory for an amount of time. You must send units to put down the revolt and restore order. Every month there are 3 issues placed on the docket to be voted on in the Landsraad. Remember, that's the forum that the great houses use to resolve disputes and negotiate. Some of them you simply vote support or do not support. Others you vote for which house the buff or debuff is to be imposed on. The number of votes that you have in the Landsraad is determined by 2 factors. Number 1, your standing with the Landsraad, and number 2, if you have any intelligence officers embedded in the Landsraad. You raise your standing by doing simple things like paying your monthly spice tax and making treaties and trade agreements with other factions. You lose standing by breaking treaties, not paying your taxes, and using atomics on other factions. Tech research and building is broken down into 4 categories. These are economic, which is technology and buildings that help you with resource gathering, management, and appropriation. Military, technology and buildings that help you with military matters such as providing buffs for your units or allowing certain units to be trained or faster movement of units. Statecraft, technology and buildings that help you with intelligence, diplomacy, and espionage. And then a 4th category that I'll call local studies. This is technology that helps you survive and prosper in the harsh environment of Arrakis. Combat is mostly your basic rock, paper, scissors hierarchy model. This unit beats this unit, but is weak to this unit, which is strong against that unit. You get the picture. There are also special units like Landsraad Guard that can sometimes be deployed if you have the proper upgrade or if certain Landsraad votes go your way. You start the game with 1 unit, an Ornithopter, and a base. Your Ornithopter can be used to explore manually by giving it destinations or set to auto recon, which will have it continuously move around the map exploring territories to discover villages, resources, and points of interest. These are small events within the game that will have minor rewards for completing them. I would suggest that you build at least 2 units and capture the nearest territory with spice as its resource. That way you can have an income of spice going because you only have 45 in-game days to pay your spice tax. One trick that I used was I would hike up my tax stockpile amount until I was barely making a profit so I could quickly get my required tax together, then boost my profits all the way and work with that income. But you have to be careful because every time you pay a tax, the next one is always higher than the last. Let's talk about mechanics. Graphics. While light years ahead of games like the above-mentioned Dune from 1992, the game is rather cartoonish. I'm sure that's intentional since I would argue that it stays more true to the book version of events than the 2021 movie. It also doesn't require a lot of processing power to run as far as I can tell. Story. There isn't much of a story yet. Like I said, it's still in early access, so they are still working on the game. There are only 2 modes, Battle for Arrakis, which is a free-for-all session, and Canley, which is a 1v1 brawl. Gameplay systems. The systems in this game are at their core very basic, like I said above. A rock, paper, scissors combat system with tech research tacked on, a diplomacy management system, and you've got the framework of the game. It's complicated by the Landsraad voting system, which has some really awesome benefits and really sucky outcomes if the vote doesn't go your way. Overall, it's a multi-layered angle to bring you a different real-time strategy experience. So that's it for the episode. This is turning out to be fun researching and playing these old and new games when I can. My next video will be a review of the Dune Mud multi-user dungeon, which is still running to this day, and Emperor Battle for Dune, a real-time strategy from 2001. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe and share. In the comments, feel free to bring up any aspect of Dune video games or the books or movies you'd like me to talk about. Subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at CPT James T. Duck on both platforms. And remember, fear is the mind killer.